Welcome to the session called How to Be Awesome at Getting Your Next Job. Yay! Nobody has left the session. Once I did this, put it up on the board, and half the audience left because they were obviously in the wrong place. Right. For me, finding a job is like a journey. And it's a journey with many steps. I have been down this road more than once. You'll hear a little more detail about that in a moment. One of the things I'm going to talk about today, come on, you know you want to play, thank you, is building foundations. When you're looking for a job and when you're applying for jobs, you need to build solid foundations. The foundations I'm going to talk about today are things like elevator pitches, tweaking your CV, blog posts, doing your homework before you go for a job. The reason why I say you need to have a solid foundation is that if you build something on top of a foundation that's not very strong or not very robust, it's not going to work for you. And it may not be very good. Now, one of the things I'll say is that some people are so good at just finding another job. I am so jealous. It's a bit like people are really good at playing certain video games. My brother has amazing hand-to-eye coordination. He could play any video game, and I maybe get to level 1 if I'm lucky. Now, let's be clear about this session and your expectations of me. The reason why I am standing here is I have failed. Let's be clear about that. I have failed to get job interviews. I have failed to get job offers. However, I've probably been for more than over 100 interviews. Don't want to count how many. I'm currently on my 3rd career. It took me 12 years to move from my previous career to IT. And in the last, 10 years? 12 years, I've moved jobs 10 times. And what I want to do today is show you the mistakes to show you or to share my wisdom, what I think works for me and what has worked for me to change jobs. Okay? Now, this session is going to fly by. There is so much I want to try and share today. I love answering questions. No, really, I do. I love talking to people. Anyone that's met me here today will know how much I love talking. It's just one of my pleasures. I love, ask me questions, I will answer them, but please keep your answers or your questions till the end. I may have time, I may not. The other thing to say is you may disagree with me. Great, fantastic. Take from this what applies to you and what you think will work for you. Okay, I'm going to share what works for me. You may disagree and do something else. That's entirely up to you. Now, I've been yapping for about 3 or 4 minutes now, so I should introduce myself. My boss made the silly mistake of saying, Robert, you can decide on your job title. And I said, I want to be the Chief Power BI Nerd, because that describes what I do and what I love. I live in sunny Scotland, in Glasgow. These are my contact details, and yes, I do love talking about this. If you want to contact me quietly, this is a way to get hold of me. And yes, I will discuss things confidentially. I will not say it to anybody. Now, have you visited the sponsors? If not, why not? Let me give you a very, very, very good reason why you should go and chat to the sponsors. Let me just see. I am aware, or not actually rephrase that, I know 4 people here today, 4 people who went to visit the sponsors and now have another job. 4 people here today at Sequel Bits that have visited the sponsors and have another job as a direct result of that conversation. Okay? So go and speak to them. You never know what's going to happen. You may find a tool you recommend to your client and saves you a huge amount of time that I did with Redgate. Saved one of my companies a massive amount of time and a massive amount of hassle. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about first steps. I think there are some first steps you take before you even apply for a job. Then we're going to talk about CVs. I'm sure many of you know how to write CVs. You're really good at it. But I'm going to share the mistakes I made so you won't make the same mistakes I made. Then we're going to talk about how can you increase your chances of getting an interview. Some things you may not have thought of before, and maybe think in a different way. Recruitment agents. I love any recruitment agents in the room. Nobody wants to admit it. That's fair. Oh, fantastic. Brilliant. Brilliant. You have to work with recruitment agents. I'm going to tell you how I work with recruitment agents. Hopefully, you got some hints and tips from there. What you should do before the interview. Talk about the actual interview itself. I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been on one side of the table where I'm interviewing people, but I've also been interviewed. Then talk about what I do after an interview. Then I'm going to talk about the next steps I take once I've finished an interview. Because not all interviews result in a job opportunity, but all interviews result in a learning opportunity. So let's start at the start. You're not going to like me, but I don't care. I'm not up here to be liked. You have to do some homework. What do I mean by homework? I could if I had my car here today, I could drive out of there, and where am I going? What direction am I going to go in? I need to go to Glasgow. All right, I need to go somewhere. So the question I'm going to ask you just now, do you know what kind of job you want? Do you know what what you actually want to do? Are you prepared to commute? I was chatting to someone today, and one of the reasons they left one particular job they really liked is because the commute was 3 hours out of their day every single day. Do you want to work hybrid? Would you like to work fully remote? Have you made those decisions before you even start looking for a job? Would you want to work for a really small company where you know everybody by first name? You're doing different things all day. Or do you want to work for a big multinational company? It's over here, a big, huge one, where you know exactly what you're doing each day. You got nice, but lots of structure. Everything's great. Benefits are wonderful. Or do you want in between? So what I'm thinking about now. So small can be good, very agile, wonderful, suits some people. But some people want to work for large organizations. Okay. I have opinions. You may disagree with them. What I do for a job, I love doing. I jump out of bed some days and I think, oh my goodness, I get to go and talk about Power BI. It's great. You're going to spend more time with your employer, potentially in the amount of time you spend with your family. So if you can find you can do something that you're passionate about and get paid for it, may not even be in IT. It's a controversial opinion. It's worthwhile pursuing that. CVs. Let's talk about CVs. So what's the definition of a CV? Curriculum vitae. Okay? A history of your jobs. I did this job, and I did this, and I did that, and I did this. This should make you look amazing. I know you are. I know you're just awesomely fantastic. But your CV should be singing your praises. So, some hands-on tips. Oops, that's my bad. Hands-on tips about CVs. One of the things that I did with my CV is I put it in a drawer for a fortnight. I know, doesn't sound. Wait a minute. He put his CV in a drawer for a fortnight. Then I got it out and I looked at it like someone who was going to interview me for a job. I was like, would I employ this person? I know he's amazingly fantastic. I know you are as well. But does your CV sing your praises? Does your CV make you look amazing? It's worthwhile looking at that. The other thing I recommend, and I hate doing this, give it to your friends and family. See, my partner, she's lovely and beautiful and wonderful, but she savaged my CV, quite rightly, because she is not involved in IT. She doesn't do the job that I do. And she looked at it and said, "Bah!" And suddenly I had a completely different perspective on my CV, because potentially your CV could be put in front of someone in HR who doesn't know SSIS or SSRS or what's power thing. Oh, it's on the job advert. We'll get them an interview. Check your dates. Very embarrassing. I've sat in at least one interview where we went, oh, the interviewer said, hang on, that date says that, but that one says that. You've written your CV. You know it's right. But double check it. Have a look at it again. I'm dyslexic, right? And I have to apply in English. I love it. In English, we have there, and there, where, and where, to, and to, 3 different words, all could be spelt correctly, but in the wrong context. So yes, it's worthwhile just double checking your CV for spelling mistakes. And yes, I am completely guilty of that. That's why I love giving it to my friends and family to check my CV. Robert, and my partner savages my grammar all the time, which is great. Less is more. What, Robert? What? Less is more? What do you mean? If you look at my CV, I think it might be on my LinkedIn profile, I'm not sure. When I worked for a company called Kepi Design, what I said there, and one of the things I did, I said, I saved 90% of the time on a manual process and saved, I think it was something like lots of money. Right? What did he do? Can we get him to do it for me? What was this process? Can I get some more details? It's enough, it's a headline that people look at and say, oh, he saved money. What did he do? I wonder if we can get them into an interview. So we say, oh, Robert, that's really interesting. Can you tell me a bit more about it? Oh, yes. Let me tell you. And then get a full story. It's been checked and done. So less is more. You want to just get into, your CV is just to get you into the to be interviewed pile. That's its single job. Okay? Get into to be interviewed pile. Are you ready for questions on your CV? If I said to you right now, looking at your CV, can you tell me why you moved from that job to that job to that job? Could you give me a clear answer that makes you look good? Oh yes, I moved from that job because I felt that the experience I was getting there wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I wanted to move on to this role when I was given that opportunity because I was looking for that skill. That's one example I gave when I moved from the consultancy in Paisley to work for a finance company. Think about your answers to the tough questions now. Do not wait for the interview. That's too late, in my opinion. Are your strengths on the CV? Are you an amazing T-SQL developer that can reduce the query time from hours to minutes? Have you written the most exceptional report that the chief executive said, that was just incredible? Is that on your CV? If not, why not? Start thinking about your elevator pitches. We'll talk a bit more about elevator pitches later on. They're short, sharp answers to questions. Why did you leave that job? Can you tell me a bit more about this? Your CV should make you look awesome. If it doesn't, it's not selling you enough. Because you're on stage, your CV wants to go into the to be interviewed pile. That's its single sole job. Doesn't tell the whole story. It tells enough that they go, yeah, I want to interview them because they're just amazing. Oh, there are several websites out there that will allow you to scan your CV. Okay, a lot of companies now are using bots to have a look at CVs. Use something like a simple font, like a sans serif font, maybe like Calibri, Arial, something like that. Make it easy for the bot to say, yes, we'll interview this person. You can also have other bots that check the job advert, the keywords in the job advert against your CV. We'll talk about tweaking it later. Okay? This is about getting to the interview. The interview is the next step. Okay, improving your chances of getting an interview. What can you do right now or leaving this session to improve your chances of getting an interview? Congratulations, you've already done one of them. Maybe you don't realize it. By being here at SQL Bits today, You're able to expand your network by just talking to people. You're able to increase your knowledge. It exposes you to more opportunities. It's lovely to have two people in the audience, so I'll maybe try and not point at, but I'll mention them by name. We went to Data Scotland. We sponsored Data Scotland. One of my colleagues said to me, I met Olivia. We have to employ Olivia right now. She's now a member of our team, very capable member of the team. But she came along the last hour and just happened to have a chat. The other person we met last year at Data Scotland was Joseph, who's now ripping it up. I give Joseph something to do in PowerShell. He's got to fly. Done. Oh, God. I need to give him something else to do. That's because they just came to Data Scotland. Do you see what I'm saying? SQL Bits in Manchester. Jet2 came along to recruit geeks because they knew that's where they're going to get. We geeks are really hard to reach. I know, we're really sociable. We talk to everybody. No. That's why coming here today is something worth mentioning in an interview. Did you know I went along to SQL Bits? Don't have to mention this session. You went along to something else. It just increases your chances of getting an interview. It makes it. If I'm an interviewer and someone says to me they went SQL Bits, they're a bit more, they're very different. Look around, just think just now, how many people from your company or your network are here today? I'm probably fairly confident it might be in the single percentage digits. That means that you're exposed to opportunities they're not, okay? I love SQL Bits, right? User groups. Oh, I got to speak to Kevin Klein today so I can tell you this story. I'm so excited about it. Kevin Klein is working for SolarWinds. I don't know if this is why he got that job, but he tells this story in a podcast. He went along to a local user group, and we're all excited about technology. We love talking about what we're doing, the problems we're solving, because we can meet other people, local user groups that have the same challenges as us. And he was chatting away to this gentleman, just saying, they were talking about technology. He said, I solved this problem, Kevin says, and I solved that. And I was just having this great conversation, he says. He didn't know he was being interviewed. The gentleman was chatting to him, was interviewing, because he had a job opportunity he needed to fill. All because he went to a local user group. Local user groups, very often somebody will stand up for recruitment, come and say, well, we're recruiting this. Or some user groups think it's a really good suggestion. Maybe you should ask managers, say, well, if you have any open job opportunities, who's looking for a job? You get to speak to people in your local area. You get to increase your network. And you get, free drinks, free food very often. It's great. And you get to increase your knowledge. What's to lose? Yeah, I know we're geeks and we don't like talking to people, we don't like going out, but you're here. It's kind of the same. Contribute to open source projects. You may not feel comfortable. I don't know if I could contribute to the code in an open source project, but I'm fairly certain I could possibly check the spelling, maybe, and the grammar. Maybe I could do a diagram. Do you know, one of the great things about some of the people we brought on recently to our team, they are amazing at documentation. They are the people I want working for me, because documentation is gold dust for the customer. And if people got that eye for detail, that's a tick in the box for me when I'm interviewing somebody. All right, okay. They might not react, you might not see it, but they're going, yep, okay. Note that one down. LinkedIn, it's like Marmite. Some people really hate it. I understand that. I happen to have a LinkedIn profile. Put your strengths on it. Put what you do on it. Recruitment agents will use LinkedIn to look for people. So they will look for T-SQL, they'll look for SQL Server. And you might get completely irrelevant jobs. Hey, but it might be that one you're looking for. This is about increasing your chances. You don't have to do it. I'm not telling you to do it. I do it, and I occasionally get ones where I go, yeah, but that's fine. Job boards. I should have updated this slide. There are lots of job boards out there. The ones that I used to use, I would upload my CV. That would go to lots of recruitment agents, and they maybe phone me. And I could also sign up for job alerts. So looking for SQL Server, SSRS roles or something like that. Now, the downside of those, which is a bit difficult, is you've got to kind of sift through them. And you've got to go, well, I don't want to commute to Aberdeen, because I've already done my homework already, and I say, well, a 5-hour commute, 10-hour commute is not what I want. Don't want to move there. Brilliant, thank you. I've also decided what job I want to have, so therefore I can, maybe out of 20 jobs, there's maybe 5 I'll apply for. It's hard work, yes, but it did get me practice. It did lead on some other things in a minute. Other ways, chat to your friends, chat to your professional network. I've got 2 stories to illustrate this. I love stories. Stories are great. I used to work for a consultancy in Paisley, and one of the things my friend Yazar, who I used to work with, we used to go to have this little routine. We'd go down to the kitchen, 10 o'clock, he would have tea, I would have coffee, and we'd just shoot the breeze. Yeah. Typical men, don't talk about it. And one morning I went down and I said, he's just chatting away, so Yazar says, oh, I'm going to move on to another company called CC Technology. Oh, I didn't know that, Yazar. He says, the managing director might be looking for a report developer. Are you interested? I said, well, here's my CV. Fire it on and see what happens. 4 interviews later, that was fun. 4 interviews. I stayed there for 5 years. I grew so much. I grew a massive amount just because I had a conversation with someone. During the pandemic, one of the things I tried to do, because I'm a geek and I don't necessarily talk to people, I just phoned people up and had a chat. I had met, I can try not to say this quite, kind of chokes me up slightly. I met Tom through SQL Bits. He's part of the SQL community, Tom Sykes, SQL Tomato. And when I was I think it was in London, I remember vividly, it was Tom's birthday. His line manager, his director, took him out and paid for his dinner. It made a massive impact on me because I'd never worked for a company like that before. I know it might seem a revelation to many of you, but I've worked for some interesting companies. And I'd phoned up Tom on, I think it was Monday morning, and we were chatting away, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. I says, oh, he said to me, how you doing? I said, well, I'm not really happy what I'm doing. I'm looking for another role, but I'm going to be really careful where I go. And I still remember Tom's words. It was great. We might have a job. We might have a job, he said. Send me your CV and I'll see what happens. So it was Monday morning. Tuesday afternoon, about 12:30, I had a chat with James, my director. By Thursday afternoon, I had a job offer. Because I spoke to someone. I mentioned I might be looking for another role. Tweak your CV every single time you apply for a job. Look at the job advert. What are they looking for? T-SQL, leadership, dedication, initiative, everything. Make sure it matches what they are looking for. It's to maximize your chance of getting a job. Okay. I think I'm going a bit too fast. I need to slow down. Recruitment agents. I love recruitment agents. They are fantastic. But I'll be honest with you, I was like, what do you do? Why? And some recruitment agents I've dealt with are a bit like this. There is a lot of money to be made as a recruitment agent. What do? Well, what they do is they will go to a company and say, have you got a job opening? Would you like us to find people for you? Do you know how much work it is to advertise a job, to trawl through CVs, interview people, shortlist? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that someone has to do. So they will pay someone else to take on that donkey work. And they will then provide them a shortlist they've interviewed and done all the double checks on. So here's 3 things I do when I work with recruitment agents, and 3 tips I would give to you. When you apply for a job with a recruitment agent, I've sent the email off. I said, I want to apply this amazing SQL job. You should really employ me. I send it off and then I phone them. I just phone them. Okay? First thing I say is, oh, hello, my name's Robert French. I was applying for that awesome SQL job. Have you seen my CV? Oh, first thing that will happen, I guarantee, is, let me check. So there's a bundle of CVs, and I go, all right, what's your name? And I'll find it. So what you've happened is, your CV is in the middle of this pile of CVs. So you've gone from the middle, you're on the phone, and the CV is in front, and you go, oh, amazing SQL job. Let me tell you about the time I took a store procedure from 10 hours to 4.5 minutes. Oh, you want to employ me. You want to recommend me because I am just amazing. I took the initiative to phone you. That's what they're thinking. because imagine how many people have got a phone. And it really struck a chord with me, because when I phoned one agent, we're talking about the number of CVs they got. He said, I got about 500 CVs a day. 500 CVs a day. So I'm no longer in the middle of that pile. I'm right in front of them. And they're like, oh. And maybe they won't recommend me for that role, but maybe they'll speak to someone else. Oh, I remember speaking to Robert. Oh, yeah, he did. Okay, maybe send him along. Second tip. This is just me. Treat recruitment agents like people. I know it's hard. They're lovely. There are some really, really amazing recruitment agents out there, honestly. And the one that actually taught me this was the one that phoned me up and says, Robert, let's go out for coffee. Let's have a chat. I want to know you as a person. And several recruitment agents have done that. We've just gone out. We've had a chat over coffee just to find out who I am, what I do, what I'm like, how personable I am. And those are recruitment agents. I know I can phone up 3 just now and say, I'm looking for a job. And I will trust them because I have a relationship with them. Third thing that I'm looking for in a recruitment agent is I want it to be like a partnership. There are a lot of recruitment agents that, yeah, there's your CV, and nothing will happen. I'll get set along for the interview. When you're sent for the interview, what I'm expecting to hear things like, here's who you're going to be interviewed by. This is what they do. Here's a little bit about what I know about them. Here's where you're going to go, and make sure you phone me when you're finished. Because unless it feels like I'm working as a team with that recruitment agent, I'm sorry, no thanks, fine. I might get that job, but I'm not going to work with them again. Okay? Before the interview, I was speaking to someone yesterday who's a chef, and we were talking about my partner's beautiful, she's lovely. She's also a chef, an ex-chef. And we spend so much time preparing ingredients, and that's what chefs do. They pick the right ingredients. They chop the vegetable in a certain way so that when it comes to making a meal, it's really simple and easy. And I think what you've got to do is approach a job interview in exactly the same way. Prepare. So what do I do when I get a job interview? Okay, I've got the job, and first thing I do, straight on Google. Tell me about them. What news is out there? What positive news is out there? What do they do? Do they make stuff? Are they looking for, are they trying to improve performance because their industry has really wafer-thin profitability? What are the main challenges in that industry? And you know what I also do? Is I write it down. So that when I go for the interview, I got a written bit of summary, because I guarantee you 99% of interviews, the one question you will get asked is, what do you know about me? So what do you know about the company? And if I can open my folder and go, well, blah, 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 I'm suddenly like, now, the number of people that I've interviewed, when I ask that, I don't know. You look prepared. You look like someone that's ready for that interview, ready to answer the questions. And I tell you, one of the best jobs I got, the other job was at SCIC. I stayed there for 5 years. And I tell you, that was a tough interview. The person that interviewed, the first interview 2 months there, says, well, I can tell liars. And I'm like, oh my God. And she got me back for a second interview with the manager, and I've stayed there for 5 years, had an amazing time. Because I suspect, because I'd done my homework, I could talk about the company and why it appealed to me. Next thing I do is I print off a copy of my CV. Yes, I have gone to interviews where I've brought the wrong CV, because I tweak my CV, and also the job advert. Because sometimes an interview asks a question that's maybe about the job advert. I just want to be able to flick that you can bring out a folder. You can have that all ready, because that makes you look organized. It makes you look professional. It makes you look as though you know what you're doing. That's the kind of person I want to send out to a client. I also print off directions to jobs, because I unfortunately once came off in the wrong junction of motorway and went just a tad faster than I should have to get to a job 5 minutes late. So I don't leave things to chance before my interviews, what I'm trying to say. The other thing is, now, I'm a man, okay? So therefore, for me, Appropriate interview clothes are probably a sports jacket, nice pair of slacks, polished shoes, a shirt and a tie. Okay, for women, I'm sure you know what's appropriate. But the other thing is, before the interview, I check everything is ready the night before. So the morning of the interview, I don't have to think, oh, which time am I going to wear? I've already picked it out. The shirt's ready. It's ironed. I've checked to make sure it's a clean suit. Shoes are polished. So I can focus on the interview. That's my sole focus. The next thing I do, I prepare anything else I might need. Do I need my keys? Do I need any money? Do I need a battery charger? Do I need cables? Have I got my copy of my CV, the job advert, the notes on the company in a folder ready to pick up? Because my focus is the interview. That's it. Just grab the stuff, out the door. I'm a bit mean, am I? That's terrible. But it works. It works. The interview. Awesome. It's go, 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 right? When you're going for an interview, just jump into it. You have no idea what's going to happen. The other thing to remember, that when you're going for an interview, you may not realize this, as soon as you arrive at the building, you're on stage. You're being watched. You might not know it. You might not know who's looking out that car door, who's looking out the window. As soon as you approach reception, this is just how I see it, I treat everybody with the same equal respect. One particular company I know of has said they'll put the CEO in the reception for job interviews because they want to see what that person is like, because that person may have to go out to companies and they are the face of that company. They also sometimes take to reception and say, what did you think of so-and-so, that interviewer? Because some people will come in, maybe not treat the receptions with the respect they deserve. I've worked in receptions, and it's been all nicey-nicey when the interviewer comes out. An interview is a dance. Expect to take certain steps during the interview. But remember that the interviewer may just tread on your toes to see what happens. Just carry on. Yep. Expect the unexpected. I've seen everything in interviews. Before I was in IT, I once went for an interview. I was asked to audition as a pantomime chicken and sell invisible carpets. I've also been for technical interviews where I have a technical test before the interview. I have a technical test in the interview. I'm asked technical questions during the interview. And I have a technical test afterwards. Sometimes the question's like, let's just see how what's his logic when applying to this situation? So expect the unexpected. If you go and look for it, you will find there are some classic questions out there. You also get asked questions like this probably. Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit. Tell me about yourself. It sounds really innocent, doesn't it? Sounds so nice. Exactly. No, it isn't. They want to see what you volunteer without realizing. So if someone says to me, tell me about yourself. Well, thank you very much. I'm applying for this role because I have demonstrated over the years the ability to innovate and save time as a report developer, and I believe I could add significant value to this particular company if you offer me the role. Stop. If I have a glass of water in front of me, I will take a drink. I have prepared the script, the elevator pitch beforehand. Okay? Because you get other questions like this. Oh, this is nice. What's your biggest weakness? Oh, God. So thank you very much for asking that question. I appreciate it. One of the things I recognize is I like to please my clients and I like to please the people I work for. Therefore, what I will do if my client asks for something beyond the specification or the statement of work, I will gently but firmly push back. If I'm working with a project manager, I will gently but firmly refer them to the project manager. If it's in a service desk situation, and I will ask, have I resolved the ticket? If the answer is yes, let's close the ticket and raise the next one. So I understand that I have a commercial resource, and therefore my time has to be paid for. End of story. No more. So what I've done is taken the weakness and turned it around. So I had to think about that. because I was asked that many times. Why should we hire you? The interviewer's asking, have you looked at the CV and have you identified the skills that we are requiring for this role? And can you answer that succinctly right now? Elevator pitches. It doesn't have to be word perfect, but no more. And there's a reason for that, which I'm going to explain a little bit later. You might ask awkward and really hard questions like, tell me a time when you failed at a task you were assigned. Have you ever had to work with someone you didn't like? Use the STAR technique. And I'm going to quickly flip through this. This is a well-known one. So situation. So you remember the situation you describe. You're telling a story. What happened, where it happened, how. The other thing to remember here is it does not have to be something that happened at work. If this situation is relevant, it's outside of work, you don't spend your entire life at work. But if it's a situation that applies outside of work, use that one. Task. What did you do? Be specific and concise. But remember, it's what you did. What action did you take? Describe it. Describe your actions. Then the result. Can you be a bit more introspective here? What was the outcome of the situation? What did you contribute to that? Maybe it's about teamwork. What did you contribute to the team? Did you take initiative? Talk about that. So if it's part of teamwork, what did you do? What did you do to achieve what the team achieved? STAR technique. Okay. The pause. Who felt really uncomfortable there and wanted me to say something? Yeah. There are a couple of interviews I've been to where the interviewer is skilled enough, they will ask an open-ended question, tell me a little bit about yourself. And I'll go, blah, 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 blah. And I'll go, and they'll just wait. That's why I have elevator pitches. So I'll give my answer, and I'll go, as if I'm supposed to say something. And if I got a cup of coffee or a glass of water, I'll go, finish my elevator pitch. They will get the message very quickly because they know the game they are playing. And the URL's there so you can actually look at it. It's used particularly with certain talk show hosts or political interviews will use this technique, and it has been used on me. Right, listening. I am awful at this. I think I know what the person's actually asking. So you may be asked a very difficult question. What I like to do to make sure I've understood and I'm answering the question I've been asked is I like to repeat the question. So tell me a little bit yourself. Well, that's very interesting. Thank you for asking that question. Do you want me to relate what's my biggest weakness? So I repeat the question, and then it gives me a momentary pause so I can think about what my answer is going to be and I can answer it, particularly if it's a question I haven't prepared for, which does happen. Okay, I may offend some people. I don't care. This is what my interview preparation is all about. Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. That's exactly what I do. I don't want to leave anything to chance. Some of my colleagues are probably like, oh my God, he's so kind of... But that's exactly what I want. I want to make sure when I come out of there, I can be confident that I'm going to get that job offer. I don't. We'll talk about it in a second. This. Now, I'll be honest. When I started out my interviewing career, when people said this, I went, no, thank you very much, you've answered it all. Now, when someone says to me, any questions, it's like, yes! Because I can turn the tables as an interviewee, and I can start to interview them. I can start to ask questions like, to the manager, what's your approach to work? Are they completely workaholic? You wouldn't want to work with them? In what way do you support your employees to develop professionally? Are they prepared to send you to SQL bits? If not, is that the kind of company you want to work for? Your decision. What do you do outside of work? What are your favorite things about working here? You're trying to find out about the work culture. Remember, you're going to spend a lot of time working with these people. Is it the culture you want to work in? What's the busiest time of the year like at this company? Do they expect you to work till 2 in the morning, come back in at 9 the next day? Oh yeah, I've worked for companies like that. Some companies say, right, okay, let me explain. This is your chance to decide if you get a job offer, should you take it or not? Don't know if it's a compliment or not, but I remember working for, it was Mortgages PLC, a finance company, and the person, the director, has been interviewed by, says, I feel as though I've been interviewed by the time I finished with them. But I stayed there for a year and a half. It was so much fun. We got on really well, and yes, it was a culture I enjoyed. But I moved on for various reasons. After the interview, you might think it's over. So you say, thank you very much, that's great. We'll let you know in a fortnight. Yeah, someone once told me that 10 years ago, and I'm still waiting to hear the call. Be aware, again, you don't know who's watching you when you leave. So be polite with everybody. If you didn't get on with the interview, maybe if you're traveling by public transport, be aware who's listening. I once went for an interview. I think a day later, someone was talking about the same company being offered a job. I was a bit disappointed. They go, I'll stay there for a couple of months and move on. Thanks. The next thing I do when I finish the interview is I take a deep breath. It's been a lot of work to get to that stage. I've done a lot of work to get to there, and it's like, okay, we've done it. There's nothing I can do now. There's some things I'm going to do next, but let's stop for a moment. Let's calm and think about what's going next. Now, I love coffee. That's just who I am. Okay, I love coffee. So what I'll often do, if I can, I'll find a good coffee shop. I'll buy some coffee and maybe a chocolate biscuit. I'll reward myself because I've worked hard to get that interview. I've worked hard to prepare. I worked hard in that interview. And the next thing I will do is I will do a checklist. He never stops, does he? He keeps going on and on and on. This is how I got jobs, okay? So the checklist is very simple. If you've applied for a job with a recruitment agent, this makes it really easy because the first thing they're going to do is say, well, how did the job interview go? And I sit and go through my head and I say, right, okay, that elevator pitch. See when I talked about move from Mortgages PLC to the company in Paisley, I've forgotten the name of. Oh, that was a really good answer. Oh, that was just brilliant. I'm going to use that again. That was really good. The way I talked about, I covered that off. My greatest weakness, oh, brilliant. I can use that at a presentation at SQL Bets. I'm going to keep that in. So next time I go to an interview, I'll use that one. Then I start to think, what did not go well? Where did I fluff my answer? Because I don't get it right every single time. Okay? I do need to go and think, well, how can I tweak that answer? How can I tweak that elevator pitch? When they said going through your jobs, the reason I gave leaving that job to move to that job, how did the interviewer respond? Was it kind of, I'm not sure? I've also been called, actually interesting enough, I've been called a liar at an interview. That was fun. I will not apply to that multinational ever again. But it taught me that that particular elevator pitch was not right for that particular role moving on. So what I'm trying to do is refine. Each time I go for an interview, I treat it like practice because I've been for over 100 interviews. So I've learned what does work and what does not work. So I'll keep what works and I'll get rid of what doesn't work. So it's this kind of circle, round and round and round and round. So what we talked about, we've talked about the start of your job search. Do you know what kind of job do you want? Are you prepared to commute? Are you prepared to move? What kind of size of company do you want to work for? What are you passionate about? What's going to make you get out of bed at 6 in the morning and think, oh, I love going to work? CVs. Get someone else who's not in your industry to look at it. Check and double check. I know it's not fun. I've been there, but it will pay dividends, and tweak your CV each time you apply for a job. Increasing the chances of getting an interview. You've already done one of them. Come along to user groups. Talk about SQL bits. Talk to the people you know. Have a little chat. Say, well, I'm interested. Have you got anything coming up? You don't know what they've got advertised internally. Recruitment agents. I love working with recruitment agents. But a good recruitment agent is someone that works in tandem with you. And phone them. Because that saves them all the hassle of looking up your telephone number, reaching out to you, missing you, and it makes you look good. Before the interview, do your homework. Yeah, I know it feels like going to school again, but that pays dividends. One story I forgot to tell you. One company I was looking, it was a speculative interview. I looked up and found out one of the directors had done a TED Talk in Glasgow. That was a 20-minute conversation because the person who was interviewing was like so excited because I had done some simple Googling. That was it. And I knew what they did. The interview, you have no idea what's going to happen. Just go in and treat it like a dance. Delight in what's going to happen and expect the unexpected. But remember to have your elevator pitches ready so that when you are asked those questions, which you're more than likely to be asked, you know the answer you're going to give and no more. And you won't be caught out by the pause like I have been many times. After the interview, what worked? What didn't work? So you're walking out. Remember, people could be watching you. Be aware of that. And find out what worked for you. What was a really good answer to that question? What didn't work for you? Now, surprisingly enough, I've finished early. So I'm looking for your feedback. Okay? As a speaker, I will not improve unless you tell me what I haven't done well. It's fine. It's what I expect people to say to me, well, if you did this, that'd be really better for me. Have you thought about doing that? Tell me what you think went well. And remember that you could win prizes. I won't do the Brucey bonus, if anyone remembers Bruce Forsyth. Yeah, I know. Oh, it's a question on screen. These are my contact details. So I'm going to open for questions. I think there's one online quickly. That's a really good question. So Anthony's asking, should I get a certification or should I speak at user groups? I'm a consultant, so you know what I'm going to say. It depends. I do know of people in the community that do not have any certifications whatsoever. But they can demonstrate their expertise. They write blogs. Certifications are awesome and fantastic. They will teach you things maybe you didn't know. But speaking at user groups demonstrates you know that. And also it's wonderful practice for speaking in front of a client and demonstrating a technical solution. So it's what would you like to do, I think is my answer to Anthony. What would you prefer? Some people, but bookish, they kind of like, I'll do the certification, I can demonstrate what I'm doing. But some people, unfortunately, like me, want to stand on stage and talk to people, and it's wonderful. And believe it or not, as a user group leader, I would love to people to speak. These are my contact details, again, just so everyone knows. There's so much I didn't cover today. Have an amazing SQL bits. I have run out of time. Go and speak to people. You have no idea where it's going to lead.